After being in love with Joel for 5 years, he said I was rigid and boring, and that he could no longer feel any interest in me. After he attended a banquet with a passionate, fiery female companion, I resolutely proposed breaking up. Joel remained calm and unhurried, his smile teasing. It's fine for you to go out and change your personality a little. Come back once you're done throwing your tantrum. I'll keep the position of Mrs. Joel open for you. Later, Joel personally saw me arguing on the street with a man everyone in the business world feared. In the end, the man pulled me into his arms and raised his brow at Joel with a smile. My girlfriend is throwing a tantrum with me. Sorry for making Mr. Joel laugh. Chapter 1. When I saw Joel's latest gossip news, I had just returned from the company. In the video, Joel had his arm around a female companion in a red dress, facing all her playful and lively behavior. He merely smiled with indulgent affection. I recognized that familiar face. She was Selena, an internet celebrity who had recently gained some popularity from short dramas. Now that she had shown her face in Joel's circle, she would probably get more resources than she could handle from now on. Many people in the comments were praising them as a handsome man and a beautiful woman, while many others were confused. So did Joel break up with Alice? Alice is like a mannequin. She acts like a pure little white flower every day. Isn't it better if they broke up? The person above clearly hasn't seen Alice's debut work. The red-clad orphan she played was her peak from the start. Her fight scenes were praised by many seniors, who knew that after she became popular, it was like she'd been possessed by someone else. Only acting in silly innocent girl roles? My fingertip paused on that comment, and my nose suddenly stung. Before I could come back to myself, my agent Monica called. Alice, what's going on between you and Joel? Why is everyone online saying you two broke up? I parted my lips, momentarily not knowing how to explain it to her. My mind was filled with the image I had discovered not long ago, of Joel and that female internet celebrity being ambiguous with each other. He had taken a drag of his cigarette. Through the swirling smoke, he said to me without any attempt to hide it, Alice, do you know what you're like now? Even a pool of stagnant water is more interesting than you. After seeing those lively, interesting young girls outside and then looking at you, you're utterly dull. As he spoke, he suddenly sneered. But don't worry, I'll still keep the position of Mrs. Joel for you. No one can take it away. That day, I had a huge fight with him. In reality, I was hysterical, while he looked completely impatient. Perhaps in his eyes, I was being ungrateful. Before, he had only secretly thrown resources at that woman behind my back. This was the first time he brought her into the open and slapped me in the face with it. I only found it tragic and ridiculous. He had plucked out all my thorns, and in the end, he said I could no longer give him the thrill I had once given him. So the promises of youth were this fragile after all. A mere passage of time could wear them down until they became unrecognizable. After a long silence, Monica sighed. No matter what, don't fall out with Joel too badly. If he wants to blacklist you, it would only take one sentence from him. I tightened my grip on the phone, my throat bitter and tight. Of course I knew what would happen if I left Joel, but I was truly tired. I truly did not want to compromise anymore. Chapter 2. Joel only came home in the latter half of the night, and with him came Selena. Selena held onto Joel's arm, showing no surprise when she saw me. Alice. Joel drank too much at the banquet and insisted on holding me, so I had no choice but to come back with him. I studied Joel for 2 seconds. His cheeks were merely a little flushed. He was nowhere near drunk, but he did not refute her. Instead, he looked at Selena with interest, as though he found this side of her very cute. I ignored the provocation hidden in Selena's words and consciously stepped aside to make way for them. The two entered and curled up together on the sofa. Selena lay on Joel's chest, laughing coquettishly as she flirted with him. Joel glanced at me faintly and smiled as if nothing mattered. Tonight might get a little noisy. Why don't you find a hotel and stay out for the night? I did not answer. I only turned and returned to my room. When I came out again, I was carrying a suitcase. The sound of the wheels interrupted their shameless intimacy. Joel frowned. What are you doing with a suitcase? I told you to stay out for one night, not move out. I looked straight at him with a calm expression. Let's break up. After hearing that sentence, Joel lazily glanced at me. Very quickly, he gave a mocking laugh. his words full of indifference. It's fine for you to go out and change your personality a little. Come back once you're done throwing your tantrum. Selena's slender white fingertips traced circles over Joel's chest, her seductive eyes fixed on him. Joel really dotes on Alice. So many people would be jealous. No need to be jealous. Now you have a chance to take her place. After dropping that sentence, I left without looking back. Behind me, Selena said, Joel, aren't you afraid Alice really wants to break up? And Joel's certain voice entered my ears. Don't worry, she's all alone in the world. She won't be willing to leave me. My hand paused on the door, but only for 1 second. Then I slammed it shut. Chapter 3. I took my packed luggage back to my own apartment. The first pot of gold I earned from filming my first drama had been used to buy this apartment. After cleaning, I collapsed onto the sofa, looking at the photo of my mother and me on the coffee table. The floodgate in my heart seemed to open instantly, and tears slid down from the corners of my eyes. Joel was right. I was indeed all alone in the world. My father had run a boxing gym in his early years. Unfortunately, he died young, and I grew up relying on my mother. I had set up street stalls in old alleys, worked as a martial arts stunt double, and even done reselling businesses. In the mixed and chaotic old district, malice toward us was everywhere. Men's covetous gazes often fell on us. I was never someone who would swallow grievances just to keep the peace. So when a pork vendor touched my mother inappropriately, I once picked up a boning knife from the chopping board and warned him viciously. Once a person is willing to risk even their life, no one dares to bully them anymore. Just like that, my mother and I stumbled through life together for 20 years. When I met Joel, my mother had just been diagnosed with late-stage stomach cancer. I paid no attention to his pursuit. Balancing my studies and part-time jobs every day had already exhausted me. I had no time to respond to his clumsy courting methods. He wasn't angry either. He blocked me behind the teaching building and asked, Alice, what exactly do I have to do for you to like me a little? I was busy rushing to my part-time job that night and was extremely annoyed by his pestering. So I directly hit him with an elbow strike and a knee strike, then rolled my eyes at him and said, no matter what you do, I won't like you. If you keep pestering me, watch out or I'll put a sack over your head and beat you up. After saying that, I ignored how he bent over in pain and quickly walked away. Yet he did not give up. Instead, after learning that my mother was sick, he patiently stayed by her hospital bed. No matter how I chased him away, he refused to leave. But sometimes, when I saw how he made my mother laugh, a corner of my heart caved in without me realizing it. Once, after coming out of the ward, he started chattering again. Alice, do you like me a little more today? I looked him up and down. The watch on his wrist alone was something I could never earn enough to buy in my lifetime. So I dragged him to a roadside food stall in an urban village. The environment was shabby. Cigarette smoke swirled around us, and drunkards were shouting noisily nearby. Looking down, there were still greasy stains on the tabletop that hadn't been wiped clean. The young master had clearly never been to a place like this. He was so uneasy he didn't even know where to put his hands. I ignored him and ordered food on my own. When the barbecue was served, I ignored the disgust in his eyes, pointing at the barbecue and several bottles of beer on the table. I said, eat, finish it, and I'll be your girlfriend. The stars that night were truly bright, but still not brighter than his eyes. There really wasn't a single thing left on the table. But that very night, he was hospitalized with acute gastroenteritis. When he was getting an injection, he was clearly weak beyond measure. Yet he insisted on holding my hand. I finished it. You can't go back on your word. From now on, you're my girlfriend. I was both angry and amused. I truly wanted to open his head and see what exactly was inside his brain. But looking at his blinking eyes, I couldn't say it had been a joke no matter what. I thought, fine, let it be. This young master wasn't having it easy either. How could I bear to hurt him again? After receiving my definite answer, he almost jumped up, even tugging at the needle. I turned my head away, laughing so hard I trembled, and scolded him for being stupid. He said, then stupid it is. Whatever my girlfriend says is right. That was how we began dating. Only when it came to money, I was especially sensitive and absolutely refused to let him support me. After I lost my temper several times, he finally restrained himself. But birth, aging, illness, and death would not slow down because of such little interludes. In the end, I still could not keep my mother. Only at my mother's funeral, looking at that portrait of her, did I realize that I was not indestructible. During those dark, lightless days, only Joel stayed by my side. He told me again and again that I still had him. He encouraged me over and over, helping me regain the courage to live. The salvation one encounters at rock bottom is something one will hold on to even more tightly. Chapter 4. It wasn't until my senior year that a director found me through my stunt fighting master and wanted me to play a supporting role in his new film. It was a wuxia film called The Green Mist Wanderer. Although I didn't have many scenes, the character was outstanding. I played an orphan girl whose entire family had been slaughtered, living only for hatred. After the film was released, it received rave reviews, and even the characters in it were repeatedly analyzed by the public. And surprisingly, the one discussed the most was my morally ambiguous character. For the sake of revenge, she would stop at nothing, completely different from the protagonist who carried righteousness in his heart. For the sole purpose of killing one person, she chose a bloodthirsty and merciless path. My name appeared on trending searches again and again. Just the fight scenes from the trailer alone were edited into fight scene compilations and compared with many senior actors. Some people even predicted that I would become a rising martial arts action star. As for me, I savored the persistence I had poured into practicing the movements, and the boiling excitement of exchanging move after move with my opponents. I was absolutely certain that this was the path I wanted to follow in the future. At that time, Joel had already begun taking over his family's business, and the time we spent together became less and less. When I shared with him the praise I had received, he was rarely silent. He hesitated, wanting to speak but stopping himself, and finally said, "Alice, I do want to marry you, but you know my parents are traditional. They watched that film you shot, and they can't accept their daughter-in-law becoming a martial arts action star. Can you leave the industry? I can support you. After we get married, you won't have to do anything. I can give you the best of everything." He held me in his arms, his tone almost pleading. Chapter 5. It was as if a bucket of bone-chilling ice water had been poured over me in the middle of winter, freezing my body numb and stiff. Clearly, when I accepted that film, Joel had supported me. Why was he now telling me to leave the industry? I argued with him based on reason, and when neither of us was willing to back down, we even had a cold war for a while. But I regarded Joel as my only close person. My future was not only about my career. Even more than that, it was about my future with him. Through countless sleepless nights of tossing and turning, the scale in my heart slowly tilted toward Joel, and just then, he took the initiative to come to me and break the ice. I still remember how his eyes were red that day as he said to me, "Alice, let's stop fighting. You don't have to leave the industry, but don't film fight scenes anymore. When you fight, you really don't care about your life. Let's each take one step back for the sake of our future, okay?" At that moment, my heart completely softened. I turned down many films and TV dramas that included fight scenes and signed with an entertainment company under Joel's family. Joel would choose scripts for me: a gentle first love, a cool and aloof immortal, or an innocent little white flower untouched by the world. One after another, no matter how they changed, they never strayed from the same essence. As I kept acting, it was as if I had been placed inside a transparent glass case. The souls of the characters squeezed into my body, assimilating me step by step. At some point, the words people used to describe me became gentle, graceful, and virtuous. Were these compliments positive? I didn't know. Whenever I felt lost, Joel would stroke my head and say, "Alice is so good. This is already great. Look, everyone says we're very well matched now. Doesn't that prove it? Did it? Maybe it did." In the dead of night, I would also think back to the days before. Back then, I wore t-shirts that cost only $12 and lived in a simple, cramped low-rent apartment. When I had free time, I loved wandering through streets and alleys. Sometimes I would stop to watch old men playing chess, or buy a bowl of beef noodles downstairs and take it home. Only back then, I still had not learned to bow my head. I was unwilling to accommodate anyone or do anything I did not want to do. No one could break my backbone. But what if that person was Joel? What if it was Joel, who had accompanied me out of the grief of my mother's death? What if it was Joel, who had lived with me in that low-rent apartment and clumsily bargained with vegetable vendors. What if it was him? Then it should be okay, right? After all, our future was right before us. My compromises were all worth it. But now, looking back, my compromise had become the weapon Joel used to stab into my heart. Chapter 6. A few days later, Joel began taking Selena in and out of all kinds of occasions. Online public opinion was full of discussion and speculation. Looks like the two of them really broke up. Joel supported Alice for so many years and still couldn't make her truly popular. I'm tired on his behalf. Look at what garbage dramas Alice's company kept accepting for her. Who understands what the Green Mist Wanderer meant back then? I support Alice filming another action movie and focusing beautifully on her career. Forget it. Alice's tiny bit of talent has long been worn away. Even if she acts again, it'll flop. I exited Weibo and Open Moments. Quite a few people had posted intimate group photos of Joel and Selena. One of them showed the two sitting in each other's arms, feeding each other wine mouth to mouth. In the comments, someone who enjoyed stirring things up asked, "Bro, aren't you afraid sister-in-law will get jealous?" And Joel replied, "Jealous of what? Does she think she's still a 20-year-old girl?" Looking at his reply, I couldn't help giving a self-mocking smile. That day, I quietly looked at the photos and the comment section for a long time. In the end, I deleted every person in my contacts who had anything to do with him. Then I opened Weibo, edited a short post, and tapped send. Joel and I have already broken up. Thank you for everyone's concern. After putting down my phone, I lay on the bed and closed my eyes. It felt like completing a cleansing process filled with endless, lingering pain. I was forcing myself to forget this person who had left such a vivid and heavy mark on my life. Chapter 7. The new drama Summer Flowers Bloom was about to start filming, and the crew arranged a dinner with the investors. When I arrived at the restaurant, only a few people had taken their seats. The movement of me pushing open the door made the man in the main seat raise his eyes and look over. The instant I met those indifferent, peach blossom eyes, my breath caught. I knew him, Oliver, the president of a large conglomerate. I had once seen him at a banquet I attended with Joel. Just standing there, he was an existence surrounded by admiration. Noble and extraordinary. Monica tugged at me from behind and reminded me in a low voice, "Come back to your senses. Greet him." I revealed my forever unchanging fake smile and reached out my hand toward Oliver. "Mr. Oliver." "Hello." A large hand reached over and gave mine a loose handshake. A low, magnetic male voice sounded beside my ear. "Alice. Long time no see." I was startled, full of confusion. I had once heard Joel say that Oliver was an illegitimate son who had risen to power. His methods were extremely ruthless, and it had taken him several years to establish his footing in the family. After becoming the true person in power of the family group, the first thing he did was send his half-brother and stepmother to prison. His father was also sent to a nursing home. It was said that everyone inside was his people. On the surface, it was retirement care, but in reality, it was imprisonment. How could someone like that remember me? But at that moment, I still quickly responded, "Long time no see." He nodded slightly, the corners of his lips curving into a faint arc. After sitting down, Monica suddenly leaned close to my ear and asked in a low voice, "How did you get to know a big shot like him? Logically, he shouldn't even be attending a dinner like this. And he even specifically greeted you. Hurry, tell me what's going on." I shook my head, somewhat confused. I only met him once before. We didn't have any other interactions. Monica obviously didn't believe me and wanted to ask more, but the director's arrival interrupted her. The leads and the director greeted the investors one by one. During the small talk, I looked toward Oliver. His eyes were lowered, his thick lashes casting a shadow over his eyelids, his expression somewhat casual and indifferent. Just as I was secretly sizing him up, he suddenly lifted his eyes. Our gazes collided and met in midair. My heart skipped a beat in fright. In a panic, I looked away, letting my gaze land loosely on the plate in front of me. Chapter 8. Halfway through the dinner, the director's face had turned red from drinking, and he suddenly called my name. "Alice, you're the female lead of this drama. Why don't you toast Mr. Oliver?" I neatly avoided the director's hand as he tried to wrap it around my waist, then smiled and agreed. I stood up and bent down to reach for the wine bottle. Before I could touch it, Oliver stopped me. Director, I don't have the habit of making actresses drink with me. His tone was light, but his gaze was sharp. Everyone present fell silent in fear. After several breaths of silence, the director wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and smiled ingratiatingly. I'm sorry, Mr. Oliver. I got muddled from drinking. I'll punish myself with 3 cups as an apology to Alice. After saying that, he picked up the glass in front of him and drained it in one gulp. Oliver lazily glanced at him, his fingertips tapping lightly on the table, carrying an unmistakable sense of threat. Having witnessed the whole thing, my mind froze completely. I had no idea what Oliver's intention was. Chapter 9. After the dinner ended, I said goodbye to the crew and stood at the intersection to hail a taxi. Before long, a pitch-black Cullinan stopped in front of me. The window rolled down, and Oliver's sharply defined face entered my line of sight. Alice, do you need me to take you home? Alarm bells instantly rang in my heart. I quietly took a step back, but still smiled politely. Thank you, but there's no need. The car I called is almost here. Oliver seemed to see my wariness and suddenly let out a soft laugh. Don't be nervous. I just saw you standing here alone and thought I'd give you a ride. My grip on my handbag tightened even more. Monica had already been called away by another artist she managed and had not returned yet. If Oliver insisted on pestering me, I could only brush him off without offending him. He looked at me for a long time, seeing that I would not get into the car. He sighed softly. The originally calm and gentle man in power suddenly showed a grievance that did not match his aura at all. Alice, you still haven't remembered me? I looked at him in complete confusion and stared at his face for a long while. Those amber-colored eyes gradually overlapped with a blurry face in my memory. Only, that boy had always been gloomy and sinister. The sentence he said to me most often was, Alice, you really love meddling in other people's business. My eyes widened suddenly, and I called out a name in disbelief. You're Ryan? As soon as I finished speaking, I saw Oliver put away his expression and return to that warm and harmless appearance, smiling as he asked, So can you get in the car now? I immediately lowered my guard and walked toward the back seat to open the door. Even if we're old friends, you can't treat me like a driver. Oliver watched as I failed to open the door, smiling innocently. I couldn't help letting out a soft laugh, but still walked around to the passenger seat. Chapter 10. After getting into the car, I stared at Oliver with novelty written all over my face, inwardly clicking my tongue in amazement. Back then, he had still been a thin, gloomy teenager. In our first year of high school, he and his mother moved to Chinon Alley and lived downstairs from my family. Perhaps I felt that he and I were fellow sufferers, so when he was cornered at the end of the alley and beaten by several young thugs, my head heated up and I rushed in. When the leader of the thugs saw it was me, he subconsciously took a step back. Alice, mind your own business. Careful or I'll kill you. I smashed a liquor bottle that some drunkard had thrown into the corner and pointed it at the thugs in front of me, cursing, a whole group of you bullying the newcomer. Huh, if you've got guts, fight me. Let's see who kills who first. In that area, I had a notorious reputation. I was known as a mad dog, one who bit whoever she saw. Once, a slick, oily-looking man touched me inappropriately, and I bit off a chunk of flesh from his arm. Quite a few people in the alley watched the whole thing that day. After that, no one dared provoke me again. The thugs exchanged a look, as if remembering that man's miserable state. Just you wait. Sooner or later I'll teach you a lesson. After throwing down that threat, they cursed as they turned and walked toward the alley entrance. I laughed disdainfully and provoked them from behind. Sure, I'll be waiting. After they walked far away, I threw away the half-broken bottle in my hand and looked down at the ground. The boy climbed up from the ground and leaned against the rough wall, gasping for breath. His sweat-soaked hair covered his brows and eyes. His skin was so pale it was like he had never seen sunlight. Like a vampire, which made the injuries on his face look even more shocking. I kicked the tip of his shoe. Hey, are you okay? He glanced at me with an unclear meaning, dropped the 2 words I'm fine, and walked toward the alley entrance. After that, I automatically classified us as fellow sufferers. Actually, perhaps I was just too lonely and wanted to find someone to huddle with for warmth. Once, I asked him why he almost never fought back. He lowered his head, his tone unreadable. If I attract too much attention, it'll bring trouble. At that time, I feared neither heaven nor earth, and I had my own set of theories for dealing with the world. But if you don't fight back, those people will keep pushing further. As the saying goes, the barefoot fear those who have nothing to lose. If they're ruthless, then you have to be even more ruthless. Thinking back now, I still vaguely remember that pair of lifeless eyes suddenly flashing with a brief gleam of light. Chapter 11. Thinking of this, I couldn't help laughing softly. Oliver, who was driving, glanced at me and asked, "What are you thinking about? You're smiling so happily," with laughter in my voice. I teased him, "You've changed so much. If you hadn't brought it up, I really wouldn't have remembered it was you." Who could have imagined that the boy who ignored everyone back then would transform into the elegant and upright person in power of a major conglomerate? It happened to be a red light. Oliver turned his head and looked at me. "You've changed a lot too." His gaze moved inch by inch across my face, as if he were talking about my appearance, but I heard the meaning behind his words. In his eyes, the neighbor who had acted recklessly and freely in youth had eventually grown into a boring adult. Just as Joel said, anyone who saw me would feel utterly uninterested. I lowered my lashes and said softly, "People all change. No matter what they become, there will always be someone dissatisfied." Oliver stared at me with an unreadable expression until the light turned green. When we were almost home, I finally heard him say in a slightly hoarse voice, "Perhaps someone simply didn't know how to raise a flower. If it were me, I wouldn't stop her from blooming." Chapter 12. Summer Flowers Bloom was a youth campus drama, and filming officially began in November. During the script reading on set, two unexpected people appeared, Joel and Selena. The moment the director saw who had arrived, he immediately stood up to welcome them. "Joel, why did you come in person? Please, have a seat." Joel glanced at me coldly, then openly wrapped an arm around Selena and sat down across from me. Everyone in the crew kept looking back and forth among the three of us. Some pitied me, while others were eager to watch the drama unfold. Joel affectionately tapped the tip of Selena's nose, smiling with indulgence. "My girlfriend is acting. Of course I have to come keep her company, in case someone bullies her." Even though I had mentally prepared myself the moment I saw him, I still could not avoid the dull ache in my heart. I lowered my head and stared hard at the tiny words on the script. Because of Joel, Selena was parachuted in as the second female lead. The script was cut and altered until it was completely unrecognizable. My first scene opposite Selena was a campus bullying scene. As the female lead from a poor family with a timid personality, I was humiliated in every possible way by the supporting female character. In the restroom, Selena grabbed my hair and dragged me to the sink. The faucet was turned on, drenching my whole body. Her expression was ferocious, yet her performance was exaggerated and superficial. "Bitch, who told you to seduce Eric?" A slap landed on the right side of my face, with very real force. In just a moment, I felt my right cheek burning with pain. Perhaps it had already begun to redden and swell, but I could not call stop. I could only endure it and still had to deliver my lines clearly. I didn't, however. Halfway through the scene, Selena suddenly got stuck. "Aw, I'm sorry, I forgot my lines. Can we do another take?" She withdrew the malice from her face and showed an innocent, apologetic expression. I supported myself against the floor and stood up, looking toward the director behind the camera. Joel was sitting beside the director, opening his arms toward Selena. Selena ran over and threw herself into his arms, looking pitifully at me. Seeing my miserable state, she covered her mouth and cried out in surprise, "Alice, I'm sorry. I got too immersed in the scene and didn't control my strength. If you're angry, I can let you hit me back." The staff had already come over with a blanket and wrapped it around me. Looking at her pretentious act, I frowned. "If you really wanted to hit me, that's fine. But shouldn't you have informed me beforehand? Also, you can't even remember such a few lines. Do you know you're wasting the entire crew's time?" The moment Selena heard that, her eyes filled with tears, as if she had suffered some enormous grievance. "I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose." Joel, however, casually stroked Selena's hair and said with a smile, "Didn't she used to film fight scenes like this too? What's the big deal about being hit a few times with this little bit of force? Besides, Who hasn't forgotten lines before? Is there any need to be so aggressive? As he spoke, his sharp gaze landed on me. Alice, don't you agree? I did not know whether it was from anger or cold, but my body trembled slightly. At that moment, the director spoke up. It's fine. It's fine. Hurry and take Alice to touch up her makeup. We'll do another take. Just from listening, I knew he did not dare offend Joel either, even if I wanted to walk away right then and there. At that moment, I could only do as I was told. Chapter 13. I was just about to go to the dressing room when a male voice sounded on set. Director, did I invest in this project just to watch such an unprofessional actress waste everyone's time? I abruptly turned my head and saw Oliver walking toward us step by step. He wore a black overcoat, and his whole body carried an undeniable sense of pressure. The fat on the director's body trembled, and he immediately rushed over obsequiously. Compared with Joel, this man was an even more untouchable living king of hell. What are you saying, sir? Selena was just too nervous. Everyone starts as a newcomer. Alice can definitely understand, right? The director frantically gave me meaningful looks, signaling for me to smooth things over. I pressed my lips together, refusing to say anything against my conscience. Oliver gave a cold laugh and walked to my side. Standing there, have any of you watched the behind-the-scenes documentary for The Green Mist Wanderer? To understand her role, Alice wrote a 10,000-word character biography. She even memorized the lines of the actors she was playing opposite. Also, she could properly respond in every scene. Oliver's blade-sharp gaze stabbed toward Selena, his voice cold and hard. If Alice could do that when she was still a newcomer, then why should she be expected to understand someone else? Selena's face turned deathly pale with fright. She clutched Joel's sleeve, trembling. Joel, however, pulled her hand away, his gaze moving back and forth between Oliver and me. Mr. Oliver, this doesn't seem to have anything to do with you, does it? Since when do you even care about such trivial matters? Hearing that, Oliver turned his head to look at me, a smile appearing in his brows and eyes. 10 years ago, Alice was the one who looked after me. Now it's my turn to look after her. Tell me, does it have anything to do with me or not? Listening to him, warmth suddenly spread to the tips of my ears, and they were probably flushed red. Yet when those words reached Joel's ears, they instantly made him explode. What do you mean? When did the two of you hook up? I frowned hard. If Joel was dissatisfied with me, I could still endure it for the sake of the contract. But Oliver was only speaking up for me. He should not have to endure such ugly speculation. Joel, Oliver and I are friends. That's all. Joel clenched his jaw, staring at me without blinking. How come I never knew you had a friend like this? Alice, you're really something. Chapter 14. In the end, that day only came to a close after the director stepped out and said a bunch of polite, scene-smoothing words. After I changed my clothes and came out, I discovered that Oliver was still waiting outside. Joel had already left angrily with Selena. As we brushed past each other, I heard him give a mocking laugh. Alice, do you think other men will treat you sincerely? Be careful, or you'll be played until there's nothing left of you. When Oliver saw me, he walked toward me in a few steps. His expression was gentle and calm, with none of the sharpness from earlier. Would you like to have a meal together? Faced with his invitation, I still hesitated a little. That day, after hearing what Oliver said, when I arrived home, I hurriedly thanked him and fled in panic. We were both adults. It wasn't as if I could fail to understand such an obvious hint, but I had just ended an unbearable relationship. Even my heart had not yet been cleared out, let alone being able to respond to him. Perhaps seeing my concerns, he added, just think of it as old friends catching up. Once he said that, it was hard for me to refuse. Oliver took me to a quiet, old-fashioned restaurant. After we sat down and finished ordering, silence spread between us. While I stared blankly at the tabletop, Oliver spoke. I'm sincere. That sudden sentence caught me off guard. I knew he was responding to what Joel had said, but I did not dare, nor could I accept him. I parted my lips. Before I could speak, I heard him continue. I know you don't plan to date anyone right now, but I can wait. I'll wait until the day you're willing to accept a new relationship. My whole body tensed, and I stammered, unable to say anything. A low laugh sounded beside my ear. All right, I'm confessing to you, not threatening you. Don't be scared, and you don't need to rush to answer me. I nodded stiffly, finally letting out a breath of relief. The atmosphere was still awkward, so I had no choice but to find a topic. Why did you suddenly move away back then? Oliver was silent for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was somewhat low and hoarse. My mother died in a car accident. I was taken back into the family. It was too sudden, and I didn't have time to say goodbye to you. I immediately regretted saying the wrong thing and didn't know how to comfort him. But he continued on his own. You've probably heard about my affairs, haven't you? Chapter 15. Through his account, I finally understood how difficult these years had been for him. Back then, his mother had been coaxed and deceived by his father into giving birth to him. At the time, she did not know that the man already had a wife and family. Later, she discovered the truth by accident. She felt that she had unknowingly become a mistress, and anger and self-blame made her take her child and leave for another place. It was not until Oliver was 15 that they returned to their hometown. However, his father still found them. The person who also learned the news was his father's wife. Because the child his wife had given birth to was useless, his father wanted to acknowledge Oliver and bring him home, but both mother and son refused. But his wife developed a sense of crisis, so she planned a car accident, intending to eliminate the problem at the root. Unexpectedly, the one who died was Oliver's mother, while Oliver himself was directly brought home by his father. They were ruthless, so I became even more ruthless than them. You taught me that. Did I learn well? Oliver looked straight at me, his tone calm and casual, but I saw the veins bulging on the back of his hand. I also clearly saw the nervousness and unease hidden deep in his eyes. It was as if he had cut open the dark side inside him, letting someone see the real him, while fearing that he would scare that person away. It would be a lie to say my heart did not ache for him. He was only 16 when he went to his father's family, facing wolves and tigers on all sides. How much he had endured and paid to reach where he was today, no one knew. I nodded and smiled as I praised him. You've already graduated from training. He gave a silent, self-mocking smile, and finally relaxed from his tension. Seeing him like this, I finally felt relieved. Casually, I asked, by the way, why did you come to the set? Oliver's movements paused. When he spoke again, his tone was natural. Of course. To see you. That undisguised truth made my ears burn all the way through. I hurriedly lowered my head to hide my embarrassment. I didn't know if it was my imagination, but I seemed to hear a low laugh beside my ear. That day, Oliver drove me home. Before I got out of the car, he asked, I heard that after you finish filming this drama, you'll terminate your contract. Have you considered signing with the entertainment company under our group? I stared blankly as I took the business card he handed over, thoughts flying wildly through my mind. Oliver added, our company will not force artists to take roles that don't suit them. You can act in the roles you want to act in and carve out a broader future in the entertainment industry. I'm not saying this because of my own selfish motives. To achieve such impressive results with your first debut film, Alice, you deserve better. My fingertips gripped the corner of the business card, as if fire were spreading from it. I clearly heard the heartbeat inside my chest, growing more and more intense. It was shouting that I was unwilling to stop here, unwilling to go no further. Chapter 16. For the rest of filming, Selena obediently finished her scenes. Perhaps because Joel never came to see her again, she had lost the confidence to keep causing trouble. That day, after the wrap party ended, the moment I walked out of the restaurant, I saw Oliver. He was also holding a bouquet of vivid, dewy red roses. The flowers filled my arms. When I looked up, I saw his smiling eyes. Alice. Happy wrap. Holding the bouquet. I couldn't stop the corners of my mouth from lifting. Thank you. There's one more wrap gift. I need you to come with me to get it. He raised his brow, deliberately mysterious. On the way, I couldn't help asking what the gift was, but no matter what, he kept his mouth shut and refused to reveal it in advance. When we arrived at a tea house and I saw the person sitting inside, I froze in place, my whole body stiff. It was the director of the Green Mist Wanderer, Angelica. She was an elegant and kind female director nearing 60. Back then, She had also been the one who picked me out at a glance from a photo in which I had casually appeared at university. During filming, she guided me, a complete newcomer, step by step, helping me present that flesh and blood female lead to the audience. It could be said that she was my talent scout and also the guide of my acting career. After filming The Green Mist Wanderer, she had earnestly told me, what actors feared most was losing their original intention, to the point where even they themselves no longer knew where the road beneath their feet was leading. So later, when I filmed one vulgar, market-pandering drama after another, she repeatedly advised me to choose scripts carefully, after realizing that I had not taken her words to heart. One spring festival, the New Year's greeting I sent her only received a red exclamation mark. "Humph, aren't you coming over? Are you waiting for me to invite you?" Angelica frowned. From her words and tone, I could hear her dissatisfaction with me, but I knew she was only disappointed in me. I blinked, but still could not hold back the tears in my eyes. "Teacher, I'm sorry." Oliver gently pushed me from behind, as if sending me back to the summer from years ago. "Enough. I didn't come here to listen to your apology." With a stern face, she pointed at the tabletop. Following the direction of her finger, I saw a thick stack of scripts. The title on the cover was unmistakably written, Sunin. News that this wuxia film would start production had already spread 2 years ago. With director Angelica's reputation in the film industry, teams from all sides had been striving hard for it. But for some unknown reason, the cast had never been finalized. Take a look, whether you want to audition or not. Think it over carefully yourself. Her expression softened slightly, and her voice also grew lighter. "I was the one who brought you into this circle. I saw your talent and hard work with my own eyes. Do you know how many years it has been since the entertainment industry produced such a young martial arts action star? So when I saw you wasting your talent, I was both angry and regretful." She sighed and patted my shoulder twice. "But even if you took a wrong turn, you're only 25. The future holds infinite possibilities. Starting over isn't hard. It only depends on whether you have the courage to take this step." Holding the script in my arms, I was so choked up that I couldn't speak. I could only keep nodding. She was both angry and amused as she slapped my shoulder lightly. "I watched most of the work you've done these past years. Such good talent. And you actually wasted it on those kinds of scripts. What am I supposed to say about you?" I wiped my face messily, my voice carrying a sob. "It won't happen again. I'll prepare properly for the audition. I won't disappoint you, director." After she left, I remained sitting there for a long time, unable to come back to myself. Only when Oliver crouched in front of me and handed me a tissue did I finally react. I dried my tears and asked him in a muffled voice, "How did you find Teacher Angelica? I thought she wouldn't see me anymore." Oliver looked up at me, every word striking my heart. "Why can't it be that the teacher has always been paying attention to you? Even without me pulling strings in the middle, this script would definitely have reached your hands." He lifted his hand and tentatively rubbed the back of my head. "Alice, it isn't only Teacher Angelica who has been waiting for you to come back. I've been waiting for you too. At 15, you were the hero who came from the sky and saved me from misery. At 22, you were the knight errant on the big screen who captured everyone's gaze. And now, you can still find your truest self again and let everyone see that radiant Alice." Chapter 17. After that day, I began looking for a martial arts teacher and started preparing for the upcoming audition for Sunin. During this period, my contract with the company also expired. After terminating the contract, it felt as if the heavy burden that had pressed on my shoulders for so long had finally been removed, allowing me to breathe freely again. I also signed a new contract and became an artist under Oliver's company. Joel came looking for me once during this period. Recently, he had been appearing frequently in gossip news, and the female companions beside him were almost never the same. I only treated it as entertainment, glanced at it, and moved on. But that day, I received a call from an unknown number. "Sister-in-law, Joel drank too much and keeps shouting that he wants to see you. Come pick him up." The moment I heard the voice, I recognized it as Joel's friend, Luis. I was practicing basic skills and had no desire to bother with it. So I said impatiently, "Joel and I have already broken up. Don't call me sister-in-law. If something happened, you can call a doctor or the police. Just don't call me." The other end suddenly became noisy. I sharply caught the closest voice. I told you sister-in-law wouldn't come, right? Bro. Then your car keys are mine. She'll come pick me up. Don't take them. Less than a second later, the phone seemed to be snatched away by someone. Alice, come take me home. Joel's drunken, hazy voice sounded beside my ear. I frowned and was about to hang up, but Luis called out to stop me. After a short while, he seemed to have walked somewhere quiet. Sister-in-law, I'll tell you the truth. Joel is just stubborn. Actually, he misses you a lot. Every day. He drinks alone while looking at photos of you too, and the name he keeps muttering is yours. After this, Joel definitely won't dare do such bastard things again. Sister-in-law, just forgive him. Hearing that, I laughed softly. What a ridiculous statement. These people were indeed birds of a feather. You think he's deeply devoted? Then why don't you develop a relationship with him? I'm not blessed enough to enjoy it. After saying that, I hung up without the slightest hesitation. A soft laugh sounded when I saw the person standing at the door. I was instantly embarrassed. Oliver was carrying a paper bag from that old restaurant in the south of the city. He shrugged. I didn't hear anything. He set down the paper bag and took out the dishes inside, placing them on the table. Eat first. There's still time. Don't push yourself too hard. I pulled over a towel to wipe my sweat, then walked to the table and sat down, looking at the dishes that looked, smelled, and tasted wonderful. I had no appetite at all. It's been too long since I practiced. Everything I do feels rusty. I'm afraid I'll never return to how I was a few years ago and disappoint the teacher again. Oliver still looked calm and at ease as he slowly handed me a pair of chopsticks. How about I practice with you later? I learned boxing for a while, so I should be enough as a sparring partner. I looked up at him in surprise, and my gaze involuntarily landed on his waist and abdomen. Noticing my gaze, he laughed lowly. Want to see? If it's you, I don't mind. I quickly lowered my head and stammered in defense. I wasn't looking at you. Don't slander me. I said it wrong. You weren't looking at me. His teasing smile made it clear he did not believe me at all. Flustered and annoyed, I glared at him, then simply ignored him and buried my head in the food. Chapter 18. After eating, I rested for quite a while. I wrapped my hand wraps properly and focused intently on the kick pad in front of me. Oliver's voice sounded beside my ear. Imagine it as everything you hate. Vent however you want. Don't suppress yourself. You are free. No one can bind you. The man's voice was low, hoarse, and magnetic, like a patient guide leading me forward. I tentatively threw a punch. The pad collided with my fist, producing a muffled thud. Good. Keep going. One punch after another landed on the pad. At that moment, my world was blank. I only needed to punch, kick, and use all my strength to strike the target before me. My wildly beating heart, my heavy breathing, the huge sounds of the pad, a rolling, enduring fire of heat burned across my heart. I heard myself shouting as all my grievances and unwillingness erupted at that moment. I don't want to be some virtuous wife and good mother. I hate wearing white dresses. I hate being manipulated. I hate being treated as an accessory. Let scumbags go to hell. Tears slid down my cheeks, blending into sweat before dripping to the floor. Only when I was completely exhausted did I fall backward. I closed my eyes, panting violently, a buzzing ringing in my ears. Someone seemed to lie down beside me. In the empty room, the pounding of my heart covered his words, making them sound dreamlike and unreal. Alice. This time, it's real. Long time no see. Chapter 19. Perhaps a very long time passed. Or perhaps it was only an instant. I opened my eyes and turned my head to see Oliver. Caught off guard, I fell into those peach blossom eyes bright as a river of stars. And for a moment, I lost myself. My heart was still pounding violently, making it impossible to tell whether this was attraction. A person so elegant and radiant was lying on the floor with me without caring about his image at all. Thinking of this, I laughed softly. He laughed along with me, his brows and eyes gentle as he watched me without blinking. After a long while, the laughter gradually faded. He reached out, and the pad of his finger landed at the corner of my eye. The touch was wet, my breathing was unsteady, and even my voice trembled slightly. Oliver, thank you. Thank you for appearing in my life again. Thank you for seeing through my mask and helping me find myself. Oliver clearly understood. His eyes flickered slightly, his Adam's apple moving up and down, his voice somewhat hoarse. Although this may be somewhat inappropriate, I want to ask, may I kiss you? His large hand tentatively touched the back of my head as he slowly leaned closer. Our breaths intertwined, and an ambiguous, lingering atmosphere surrounded us. I looked into his eyes, as if falling into a surging tide. I could no longer remember who took that step first. I only felt as if my whole body were floating on the sea, swaying back and forth, unable to touch solid ground. A warm embrace held me up. I closed my eyes and watched a grand, dazzling fireworks display. Chapter 20. At 10 o'clock that night, Oliver drove me to the entrance of my residential complex. Inside the car, he held my hand, lightly kissing my lips again and again, lingering for more than 10 minutes. I teased him, "Why don't you come upstairs with me?" He glanced at me with an unreadable expression. "Alice, don't invite a wolf into your home." My face flushed with a whoosh. I pretended nothing had happened and pushed him lightly. "Be serious. Don't think that just because you have a title now, you can do whatever you want." He suddenly laughed softly, the vibration coming from his chest. "Girlfriend, it's because you're too charming and don't even know it." Seeing the teasing smile on his face, I couldn't help laughing too. So the boy who had been silent and withdrawn in youth, now the incomparably noble CEO, also had this side to him. At the end of that day, I took a photo of our interlocked fingers and posted it on Moments. Only then did I finally send him away. Chapter 21. A few days later, I received another call from Joel. The moment he spoke, his hoarse voice almost made me unable to recognize him. "I'm downstairs at your place. Can you come down?" I walked to the window and indeed saw the car he often drove. I rejected him directly. "We've already broken up. A qualified ex should act as if they're dead." He was choked by my words. After a few seconds of silence, he spoke with difficulty. "I was wrong. I thought those women could give me freshness. But none of them were you. After you left, the house was full of traces of you. Even when I drank myself into a stupor, my mind was full of the way you used to cook sobering soup for me." As he spoke, he panted heavily. "Alice, let's get back together. No matter who that person is. I don't care. As long as you're willing, we can go get our marriage certificate tomorrow." I listened to what might have been his sincere confession, but my heart remained perfectly calm. Back when he pursued me, he said he liked my resilient, thorny appearance. Later, he reshaped me into the version he wanted, then began to grow tired of my unchanging nature. What made him think that as long as he lowered his head, I would obediently give in and throw myself back into the fire pit? "Joel, do you think marrying into your family and becoming your wife is my lifelong dream? I was willing to hold myself to your family's standards only because I once loved you, but now, I no longer care about you." Joel's breathing on the other end became heavy. After a long while, he said, almost pleading, "I'm sorry, Alice. I really can't live without you. Give me a chance to make it up to you." Before he could finish, I cut him off directly. "Sorry. I don't have time to listen to your fake repentance. Don't contact me again. I'm afraid my boyfriend will get jealous." After saying that, I hung up immediately. That car stayed downstairs for a whole night and did not leave until dawn. But what did that have to do with me? When he threw away my love like a worn-out shoe, why didn't he think this day would come? In the end, he was merely driven by habit. When a woman who had once loved him to the bone suddenly withdrew, he finally felt such a huge sense of loss. But someone like him, even if I turned back, would definitely grow tired of me again. Chapter 22. Perhaps because I had vented once and unloaded the burden in my heart, I gradually found my state again. On the day of the audition, Oliver drove me downstairs and said to me, "Don't be nervous. I'll wait for you right here." I had watched him be restless all morning, yet now he was comforting me instead. "Who exactly is nervous here?" I poked his chest and teased him. "It's beating like a drum." Seeing me like this, Oliver knew I truly was not nervous, and only then did he let out a breath of relief. He gently kissed my cheek and said in a low voice, "Go. You know that no matter the result, you are my female lead." By the time I came out, 2 hours had passed. Oliver stood motionless at the entrance, like an exquisite statue. I lowered my head, shuffled up to him, and buried myself in his arms. He froze for a second, then quickly patted my back and said gently, "Do you want to go eat the soup dumplings you said were delicious last time? We happen to have time today. After eating, we can go take a walk by East Lake, okay?" I hid my face and kept shaking my head. His voice carried some panic, and he quickly continued, "Then we won't go. Are you tired? Let's go home and sleep first." He kept muttering by himself nonstop, his hand still gently patting my back. I really couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. He stiffened for an instant, then lowered his eyes and saw my sly smile. He took a deep breath, sounding rather like he was gritting his teeth. "Were you trying to scare me to death?" I immediately tilted my head and pretended to be innocent. I didn't say anything. He held my face and rubbed it twice, as if venting his frustration. I linked my arm with his and walked with him toward the car. At the same time, I told him that I had performed pretty well in the audition, at least doing my very best. No matter what, I would have no regrets. Chapter 23. The result also proved to me that the sweat I had shed during this period had not been wasted. I was selected to play the title heroine, Sunin, in Sunin. On the day the official Weibo announced the cast, several trending topics appeared one after another. Hashtag Angelica and Alice collaborate again on Sunin. Hashtag Alice fight scene compilation. This immediately drew out many fans of the Green Mist Wanderer, who left comments one after another. "Ah, Alice and Angelica collaborating for the second time. And there are fight scenes too. What kind of once-in-a-lifetime series is this?" I apologize for previously saying Alice would keep going downhill forever. Alice broke up and terminated her contract, so it turns out she was waiting for me here. There were also plenty of people joining the fun and making sarcastic remarks. Alice as the female lead, after acting as Little White Flowers for years. Can she still fight? An actress like Alice, with no acting skills and no reputation, makes it hard not to suspect this film will collapse in reviews and flop at the box office. Over these years, I had accepted all kinds of evaluations, so they did not affect my mentality. On the night Sunin began filming, I talked with Angelica for a long time. We talked about the story and about the female lead, Sunin. This was a story with tragedy laid as its foundation. The story within it could not be clearly explained in just a few words. I read the script again and again, and rewrote the character biography countless times after overturning it. Teacher saw my anxiety and told me, "I know the pressure of public opinion you're facing right now is huge, but when studying a role, you must never be impatient. Once a person gets anxious, they become chaotic. If you can't enter the role, then even if the performance looks good, it will have form but no spirit." Chapter 24. I let out a long breath and tried to calm myself down. I had indeed become impatient, because I wanted too badly to prove myself. I had strayed further and further off course. I thought I would still need to adjust. But unexpectedly, once filming began, my state of mind was completely different. Once I entered the filming state, I had no spare time to overthink. For 2 straight weeks, I was immersed in the role and could not pull myself out. The signal in the mountains was extremely poor, and I did not often keep my phone with me, so much so that I completely forgot I still had a boyfriend. It was only when Oliver came to visit the set that I remembered his existence. Oliver raised his head and stared at me resentfully. "You don't miss me, really? What an accurate guess." I smiled guiltily and avoided his direct gaze. Yet less than 2 seconds later, this man had already coaxed himself back to normal. "I know you're filming and can't be distracted. I don't mean to blame you. I just saw something a certain person posted and wanted to come confirm whether this was still my Alice." A bit of red clung to the corners of his eyes, and his cold, aloof air shattered inch by inch. I froze and immediately thought of Joel. Seeing me lose focus, Oliver kissed me directly, between the contact of lips and teeth. He said in a muffled voice, "You're not allowed to think about him." His attack became increasingly fierce. I was kissed until I was almost dizzy, and I also tasted the depth of his possessiveness. When I finally managed to open Weibo, I learned what Joel had done. The official Weibo account for Sunin had posted a behind-the-scenes clip, and the most eye-catching repost was Joel's name. "Wherever I look, there is no one else. Everywhere around me is you." His comment section was even more spectacular. Deeply devoted again. Are we? Mr. Devotion? What is this? Wasn't he parading around with his new lover not long ago? So the plot has fast-forwarded to the crematorium for chasing his wife? I love it. Post more. After reading it, I felt my vision go dark and nearly passed out from anger. Joel must have lost his mind to publicly post something this disgusting with such fanfare. Without stopping for even a second, I blocked his Weibo too. Out of sight, out of mind. Chapter 25. With the efforts of the entire crew, Sunin finally welcomed its wrap party. During the banquet, I drank a few extra glasses, and my whole body became dizzy and lightheaded. When Oliver came to pick me up, everyone burst into teasing cheers. That was all thanks to how he would come to the mountains to visit the set whenever he had time, constantly having people send over food and supplies to win everyone over. My steps were unsteady, yet I still kept trying to walk in a straight line. Oliver, helpless and amused, picked me up in his arms and walked step by step toward the car. But even in his arms, I refused to behave. I circled his neck with my arms and stared at him through drunken eyes. The longer I looked, the more he resembled the little brat I had met when I was 15. Ryan, do you still think I'm annoying? The moment he heard that name, Oliver's steps paused, and then he laughed lowly. Ryan didn't know what was good for him. How does Alice want to punish him? My mind was a mess. Everything I said and did came purely from instinct. Bite him. For a moment, overcome by desire, I bit his lip. In an instant, my breath was stolen away, and the storm-like kiss left me nearly breathless. In the brief gap for air, I finally sobered up quite a bit. Panting, I kissed the corner of his lips again. Can we go to your place tonight? Chapter 26. I soon regretted my impulsive suggestion. Oliver was a starving wolf, devouring me whole and taking from me tirelessly. Oliver, gentler. My broken request was once again shattered by his movements. I could only try to move upward. Oliver protected my head, took hold of my wrist, and pulled me back. He lowered his head. When he kissed me, he was clearly extremely gentle, yet his strength did not lessen in the slightest. Alice. Running away halfway through is not how this works. Messy strands of hair stuck to my cheeks, and I whimpered unconsciously. You're bullying me. Oliver laughed softly, his slightly hurried breathing hoarse and sexy. His scorching breath fell on my skin, making me tremble. His kisses wandered and lingered all the way down. As my consciousness blurred, I heard him say, Alice, I'm loving you. Chapter 27. The next time I heard news about Joel was when Selena posted an accusation that Joel had forced her to have an abortion. The matter caused an uproar and became known to everyone. Only later did people learn that Selena had wanted to use the child to rise in status. So she had deliberately tampered with the contraception. Unexpectedly, Joel directly took her to the hospital, had the child aborted, and gave her a large sum of money. But Selena was greedy and demanded money from him again and again. When Joel refused to give it, she exposed the matter. When I received the call from an unknown number, I was leaning in Oliver's arms, drowsy and half asleep. A man's drunken voice came from the other end of the phone. Alice, I'll handle all these things properly. We can still go back to the way we were before, right? Before I could speak, Oliver gave a cold laugh. Mr. Joel, rather than regretting it now, you should have demanded self-restraint from yourself earlier. The other end instantly fell silent. After several seconds, he spoke in a trembling voice. You let Alice answer the phone. Oliver lowered his head, his thin lips brushing against the top of my hair, and asked softly, Alice, do you want to talk to him? I sensed the hidden, ready to strike threat in the place where we were pressed together and glared at him resentfully, pinching his waist with neither too much nor too little force. Oliver was completely unaffected. His tone carried smugness as he said to Joel, Mr. Joel, my girlfriend is unwilling. After saying that, he hung up without waiting for the other side to speak. The arm around me tightened. Oliver rubbed against the crook of my neck and muttered in dissatisfaction. He really is haunting us. Amused, I wound my fingers around the ends of his hair, soothing him. Chapter 28. On the day Sunin was released, Oliver accompanied me to the cinema. We wore masks and blended into a packed theater. When the movie began, everyone focused intently on the screen. They watched as Sunan bid farewell to the young man and disappeared alone into endless darkness. One bright, one dark, foreshadowing the final ending between them. The movie continued. As the lead actress, I had not seen the final cut either, so my anxious heart was no different from the audience's. At the very end, one person, two fists, stood bathed in blood. Sunan looked at the corpses covering the ground. No longer able to support herself, she collapsed to her knees. Her hands trembled as she took out the fake manual. Her blood-stained fingertips landed on the cover and slowly traced across it inch by inch. The screen darkened, and Sun An's lost and helpless voice asked, "Father, killing people and saving people, what difference is there, really?" When the lights in the theater came on, I sniffed and looked around. I saw quite a few people secretly wiping their tears. Then I turned to look at Oliver beside me, seeing the redness around his eyes. I was shocked. "No way. Even you cried?" I touched his head, as if comforting an injured puppy. He leaned closer and, through the mask, gently touched the side of my face. "It's different." They cried for Sunan. I cried not only for Sunan, but also for Alice. Chapter 29. During its release, Sunan earned $3 billion at the box office, and online reviews were overwhelmingly positive. The two roles Lu Chao and Sunan are enough for Alice to boast about for the rest of her life. I originally wanted to go nitpick, but ended up crying. Director Jiang never gives Alice's characters a good ending. Please collaborate a third time. Ah. At the cruise celebration banquet, I left halfway through to use the restroom. When I reached the corner, someone grabbed my wrist and pulled me inside. I cried out in surprise and instinctively struggled. "Alice." "It's me." The man's voice was terribly hoarse. By the moonlight, I made out his face. It was Joel. His cheeks were sunken, and his whole body was thin and skeletal. No trace of his once superior looks could be seen. "What are you doing?" I spoke sternly and took the chance to shake off his hand. Watching him warily, Joel's chest heaved violently, as if he might collapse to the ground in the next second. Afraid he might try to frame me, I quickly stepped back twice. Seeing my movement, he gave a bitter smile and said, "I watched Sunan." "Alice, you really are excellent. All this time, I was the one who bound you." "I'm sorry." I frowned impatiently. "If you know that, then stop appearing in front of me." Joel looked at me with a deep gaze that made my back go cold. "I won't disturb you again, Alice. I wish you happiness." After saying that, he turned and left, his back looking unsteady and on the verge of collapse. I was completely baffled, but I truly did not want to let him occupy my thoughts, so I shook my head and returned to the private room. When Oliver came to pick me up, I briefly mentioned it to him. He was silent for several seconds, then told me the reason for Joel's abnormal behavior. It turned out that after Selena exposed Joel, Joel also reported her to the police for extortion. After investigation, the police determined that the evidence did not meet the filing requirements for an extortion case. After Selena found out, the first thing she did was find Joel. Under the pretext of negotiating with him, she drove into a large truck at an intersection. Selena died on the spot. Joel was sent to the hospital for emergency treatment. Although he survived, his kidneys were damaged, and he also lost his fertility. This time, he had probably truly given up and had only come to say goodbye to me. I suddenly understood and let out an "ah." Oliver immediately looked nervous. He really deserved it. After hearing that, he visibly became happy. I leaned over and kissed him. It's so nice that no one annoying will get in the way anymore. Chapter 30. After spending a long time together, one would come to know that Oliver was actually a jar of vinegar. But when he got jealous, it was not easy to discover. He neither said it out loud nor let me notice. I only found out because I filmed a movie with a romantic storyline. The plot was fairly intense. When we watched it in the theater, I kept glancing at him, but his expression remained calm from beginning to end, as if he did not care at all. Aside from that night being a little more intense between us, there was nothing else unusual. I sighed in my heart. What a good boyfriend. Fully supporting my career. Until I found the search history on his phone. He had searched every male actor I had worked with from top to bottom. Not only that, he had also searched, do actors easily fall in love because of a role? Will publicly announcing a relationship affect an actor's career? What should you do if you get too immersed in filming and can't get out of the role? When I opened the photo album again, I saw that he had saved quite a few of my stills from the drama. Only, there was absolutely no trace of a second person in them. After seeing all this, I really couldn't hold back and laughed out loud. How could there be a CEO who did such childish things on his phone every day? But after laughing, waves of heartache followed. He had never forced these emotions onto me. He only chose to digest them by himself. No matter what drama I accepted or what role I played, he never interfered with my choices. When I had to film and often stayed on set, he would come visit me without fail. Rain or shine, when I couldn't get out of a role, he would quietly stay by my side. I put his phone back where it had been. After thinking for a moment, I ran to the study. Oliver was reading documents. Noticing me pouncing toward him, he quickly reached out and held me. I looked straight at him and said, "Oliver, I don't think I've ever told you I love you very much." All right. The CEO's eyes turned red again, but I didn't get to be happy for long before the person with red eyes and falling tears became me. Chapter 31. The day I won Best Actress. Oliver proposed to me, knowing that I did not like overly solemn or grand ceremonies. He chose a place where there were only the two of us. When I choked out, "I do," bright tears fell from the corners of his eyes. Even the hand putting the ring on me trembled lightly. Where was the steady, self-possessed man he usually was? With red eyes, he pulled me into his arms. He held my hand and rubbed it gently. The rings on our fingers touched, cold and hard, yet warm with tenderness. I heard him say, "It feels like I'm holding the dream that began when I was 15. For many years afterward, I always remembered that sentence, carrying the sigh of a long dream finally coming true. I was equally full of gratitude. It turned out that everything had already left traces when we were young. At the fork in the road, by a twist of fate, we went our separate ways. After going round and round, in the end, we still held each other's hands and ran toward the distant future.